Hello, random fellas. This is my refutation, quote unquote, to the Smith-Morra Gambit. We are going to be accepting Smith-Morra today. Smith-Morra starts like this. If you want, like, a good side weapon, just like if you don't want to learn all this theory, then just play knight f6 here. Right? If you know the theory in the Alep Sicilian, then this will transpose to the knight f6 lines in the Alep. You know, if you play c3 here, knight f6, e5 here, e5, take, take, ta-da, we've transposed. Okay. Also, I think you can play d5 here and transpose to the d5 variation of the Alep. I think. Like, take here, take here, take here. Yeah, this is the Alep Sicilian environment defense. Okay. So yeah, either of those are completely playable, but we are going to be accepting. So I went through the trouble of learning all of this theory because there's like 3 players at my club who play the Smith-Morra against the Sicilian, and I've been really struggling against it in classical. So it is by no means a shaky opening. We're going to start with knight c6, and white's going to play knight f3. I tried to make the best moves I could for white, with a lot of help from the engine. Just so you know, a lot of these lines are engine approved because I like playing lines that are engine approved, but it's like there's a lot of times where the engine recommends like 4 different moves, and I just pick the one that I think is the simplest. So I tried to make this as simple as possible. I'm going to be recommending e6. So I've played this over the board in classical. I think it's an incredibly solid way to play against the Smith-Morra. You are going to be facing bishop c4 like 99% of your games, okay? Literally everyone and their mom plays bishop c4 here because bishop c4 is correct against d6, and it's correct against g6, I think. You can play bishop c4. Like, bishop c4 is correct against everything that's not e6, so everyone is going to be playing bishop c4 because it's the simplest, but there is supposedly bishop e2 here that the computer says is slightly better. If your opponent plays bishop e2, then just play bishop b4, castle, knight g7. Just, you have a normal game on your hands, and this is
Probably slightly better for black since we're upon
equal. But bishop c4 is a much more aggressive move. Bishop c4, very aggressive. And I knew about a6 for a long time, but I thought the point of a6 was to stop knight b5, right? Because knight b5 is a very annoying move in the Smith-Morra. So I thought that it was like quite passive, and even though the engine likes it, evaluation bar likes it, whatever, I thought that I didn't like this. So for a long while I was experimenting with stuff like bishop b4, the pin defense, and then like knight e7. And don't get me wrong, this is completely fine, but the problem is there's like all these forcing lines like knight b5, d5, take, take, and you can take here because there's a fork here. So knight takes, queen takes, you can't even take the queen, you just castle. And basically you have the bishop pair, as you can see by the red markings, and it's supposedly slightly better for black, but we're no longer a pawn up, and I haven't had much success with this. So don't get me wrong, not everyone knows about knight b5, but I just think that like these lines are overcomplicating things. And I think that from my analysis at least, a6 appears to be quite the good response to the Smith-Morra setup. So the point is, after castles, which is presumably the move that white will play, they can play something like bishop f4, but this will transpose. After bishop f4 or castles or whatever, you are going to play b5, which is a pretty nice move. So there's actually 4 moves we're going to be looking at here. So you might be wondering, wait, Jacob, 4 moves? 1, 2, 3. That's correct. There is in fact 4 moves. So we will look at this one first. Obviously, this is a very known thing that in the Smith-Morra you can sacrifice on d5 a lot of times. Usually it's the knight though. But I think bishop d5 is a very shaky move for white, because it's not actually threatening anything. Like, this is just a trick, hoping that we take and blunder the game away, right? But there's a quite simple refutation to this, and that is bishop b7, continue developing. Now, for white here, I'm going to play queen e2, because that's what the engine says is best, and the point is you want to bring the rook to d1 and put it on the d file so it can target the weak d6 square, it can be opposite the queen. It makes sense, but if you run into moves like bishop f4, then you can, for example, play, let's say, knight g7, and it's a relatively simple play for black. You're just going to continue ignoring that bishop. You're going to play knight g6 and bishop e7. And knight g6 from knight e7 is going to be a very, very common idea when the bishop is on f4. You'll see that in a moment. Okay, so queen e2. I don't know if there's that much else I can play. And knight g7 is the move I have decided to play here. The computer says that there's like 4 different moves, like knight f6, knight e7, bishop d6, bishop e7, queen c7 or something. Like, there's like a lot of moves here, but I find that knight g7 is the most accurate and the simplest as well. So h4 is the engine move. I'm not going to lie to you, nobody is going to play h4. I think already in this position, if someone plays bishop d5 against you, I mean, I would be shocked, because I don't think that people know this theory. This is relatively unknown for what I'm aware, but just like very quickly, h4, play h5, you know, rook d1 or something, and knight g6, and okay, you're going to play bishop e7 and castle, and you will be fine. Yeah, included a4, but you can just take it and play bishop e7, and it's a fine position. So, where were we? Oh yeah, instead of h4, let's say bishop g5, right? This is in fact a move, and I think you should play f6, because it's very logical, and this can get very, very crazy and very, very tactical if white finds the move like rook f to d1, right? And all of a sudden, you know, this is starting to get real scary here, right? This is like crashing through, but realistically, there's a move that the computer likes here. Again, I did get a lot of help from the computer, I will admit, which is queen b8. And I think it's a really solid refutation, because now your queen is simply not here anymore, and you're going to take one of the bishops. It's that simple. So I haven't looked that much into this. Also, I don't want this video to go way too long. You can look more into it yourself. But something like bishop takes c6, bishop takes bishop c1. It's supposedly this position is very good for black, and I am inclined to agree. Also, I mean, I guess maybe there's like bishop c1 immediately, but I guess you should be able to take here. And yeah, I'm not going to cover this, okay? I'm not going into all this. Yeah, so that's about it for bishop d5, pretty much. This is just a very solid setup. You will probably get this against bishop d5, and you're going to have to figure it out on your own if white plays some different moves. I don't know, maybe e4 is like some try here or something, but yeah, I hope you have fun playing that one. So that's it for bishop d5. Let's move to the next move, which is bishop b3. So there's actually a very important thing that I found, okay, somewhat. The computer will tell you that like bishop b7 and knight a5 are like the same evaluation, but knight a5 is a much better move, okay? Because bishop b7 leads to very complicated variations. I'm not going to get into it, but you need to play knight a5 here, okay? Just, that's pretty much all you need to remember. Just play knight a5. And white essentially does not have that many good tries here. I mean, you can try some rook e1, but just take. And the computer says that a takes is bad. I feel like it's very human, but it says queen takes, and I think black is better here. Just develop your pieces and you'll be fine. And, you know, bishop f4 maybe. Yeah, just take. And do I have anything here? No. It's probably going to be queen takes again. Maybe knight e7. Apparently not. Maybe bishop e7. Ah, okay. Okay. Second time the charm, you know? Yeah. So, just so you know, I'm not looking at computer moves. I only have the evaluation bar here, so I am probably going to be making a lot of mistakes. But I think the best move here for white is bishop c2. And it's an alright try, but I think I found a relatively simple setup here for black, which is first bishop e7, bringing that bishop into the game. White will play bishop f4. I mean, it's kind of a normal developing move. I have some other moves here. There's e5, for example. I thought knight e7. And then there's knight e4, which is trying to get into the d6 square. Just play knight g6. Obviously, knight here is unplayable because just takes. Let's say queen takes. I'm guessing there's queen e7. No. Okay, queen e7 is also advantageous, but apparently there's something better. Knight here. Yeah, there's some very accurate move here. I'm like 0-5 for guessing moves. Okay, but basically they shouldn't play knight d6. All right, you can figure that out on your own. So they'll probably play b3. b3 is the best try, and we're already too deep in theory here. You'll probably never get this in your games, but just for cool effects here, there's a really cool knight maneuver, which is knight c6. You're threatening the e5 pawn, so they have to play bishop b2. And then knight b4, hitting the light square bishop, so they have to play bishop b1. And knight d5. This is like a really cool line that the computer found, admittedly, but I think that it's like actually very human and very logical, because you're just improving your knight for free pretty much. And it's actually rather difficult to find plans here for white. Right now your rook is trapped here. There's no rook c1. It's kind of a difficult position to play, in my opinion, for white. So that's about all I have for e5 on move 10. Other than that, what else was there? There was bishop f4. Yeah, so rook c8 is very accurate. You're going to be seeing this a lot in these variations. It's somehow better to develop the queen side first. So queen e2, this is a typical idea, and knight e7 again is what I'm recommending. h4 again, the computer says, and you will get some position looking like this if they play h4. Other than h4, let's say they play a more human move like rook a1, then you can just play knight g6, the bishop moves, play bishop e7, castle, you'll be fine. So I think that this is a pretty solid way to refute bishop f4 as well. So I think the best try in this variation is, whoops, not bishop f4, queen e2. Going for queen e2 immediately. These are like subtle move order differences, but rook c8 again, rook over to d1, and bishop c5. So this is admittedly like the best try for white. So some of these lines can get like a little bit complicated, but white is nearly busted here. Bishop g5, for example, is a move. f6, bishop h4, knight e7, and as you can tell, the computer thinks that this is very complicated, but it still thinks it's better for black. e5, knight g6 hitting the bishop, so bishop takes with check is kind of forced, and at the end of the day, I think that this position is quite comfortable for black. So we're like 16 moves into theory here. You don't have to remember all this. You'll probably never see it. But it's just, I'm just showing that it is like white doesn't have really that many tries here. There's e5, which is definitely white's best try. So this is going to lead to some complicated game, because the move here for black is f5. So obviously takes, knight takes, you know, if takes en passant, and I think that's a relatively simple position for black to play. I mean, you can castle, you have the open f file, you have a pretty good position. So I think the better move is knight d4. And to be honest, I have like no idea what knight d4 is doing or threatening, okay, but it's the move that the computer recommended, okay, and I can't really find plans for white here myself. So maybe like start attacking on the king side, but I think it's non-existent. But there's like some really weird line here. So if your opponent really knows their stuff, then you're gonna end up in this. Take the knight, rook takes, and then knight c6 back. Rook d6. And now comes the really, really weird move, queen h4. Okay, I will be honest. I cannot explain queen h4 very well. This is like an only move from the computer. Literally, it says everything else is better for white. Like if you play like knight g7 here, all of a sudden it thinks it's way better for white. So for some reason, queen h4 needs to be included. But the point is that I guess white can't play g3, for example, because then queen h3, and all of a sudden it is getting very, very dangerous here. So white can't really push the pawns on the king side too easily. And the good news for black is after finding this really weird move, white kind of has no plans. There's not really a super strong try here for white. Black is just going to play knight g7 against pretty much everything, and it is completely okay. I don't remember what the best try here for white was. Bishop e3? Yeah, bishop e3 is a move. Oh yeah, but it looks like it's sacking the pawn on e5, but you can take and takes on f5, and it looks very scary, but just play knight g7 and castle and you're fine. You do need to be careful of this though, but... So that is the position you're going to end up in if white knows everything, okay? Hopefully your opponents aren't playing like 18 moves of theory against you, but if they do, black is still better, okay? Don't worry about it. But that is pretty much all I have for bishop b3. So now we'll get to the two best tries for white, I believe. I think bishop d5 and bishop b3 both give pretty, maybe objectively better positions for black, but I think we'll start with bishop d3. Bishop d3 and bishop b2 are going to look like each other a lot. That's because they're very similar moves, but I think bishop d3 is better for white. So actually we're going to start with bishop b2 because I think bishop d3 is better. So bishop b7, bishop f4, rook c8, rook c1, yeah, knight e7. Like, this is some weird theory, so your opponents are probably never going to play this, but you're going to end up in this position, and you have to play rook takes. So, yeah, you can't play knight takes because you're going to get in trouble with bishop takes b5 and knight takes, and it's just don't go into it, okay? So you have to play rook takes even though it's a weird move, and just play like f6, and your plan is to manually castle the king, okay? You will be fine. You will defend your d7 pawn before going with that plan, right? Put a knight here. b4 is supposedly the move from the engine. I have no idea what this does for white, but let's say like knight takes. Just take back with the knight, I assume. Apparently not. What's better here? Taking back with the f pawn is better? Oh my god, and you're just opening up your f file? That's insane. Okay, remember that. Remember that. Write that down. Write that down. Yeah, so this is about as much theory as I can muster in these positions, but that's it for bishop e2. You'll probably have to study that one a bit closely if you want to remember that. I don't even know if I'm going to remember all this. But finally, we have bishop d3. This is probably the best move for white. And bishop e7, bishop f4, rook c8, queen e2. It looks very similar to the position we just had, right? With the bishop on e2. Yeah. It's literally the exact same position, but just with the bishop on d3 instead of e2. But the difference is that queen e2 is playable. So in the last position, white played rook c1. But in this position, white has the opportunity to play queen e2 instead. It's not guaranteed your opponents will play it, but if they do, knight b4 is a very strong move. By the way, these are like only moves for black to hold advantage. It is like a relatively scary position, so it's good to know the moves. But yeah, knight b4, knight e7, Your opponents will probably play a3, so you'll put the knight back on c6, and e5, knight g6, bishop g3, and okay, after bishop e7, I think that it is an okay position for black. Is there anything I forgot to cover? I don't think I forgot to cover anything. This is pretty much the setup. So, depending on where the bishop moves, you will play different things. But basically, some rules of thumb, knight e7 is a good move most of the time. And also, you sometimes want to develop your queenside first. That's pretty much, those are the things that I can give you. Yeah, that's about it for this video. If you have any questions, please leave them in the comments down below. I'll do my best to answer them. Thank you for watching. Like, subscribe, leave a comment down below, like I said, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.